What is the biggest challenge for these children at home?
So I would say that the biggest problem that they're dealing with is the underlying poverty. So because of this, they have a lack of resources for them to kind of get in their area, but also their housing conditions are really, really bad. So um, not only are they struggling to make ends meet to feed their children, but they're also making ends meet with living in houses that are too crowded or trying to even get to school.
What is the biggest challenge at school?
So the biggest challenge that these kids are really facing is bringing problems that they suffer with at home and bringing it into the school. So whether they're struggling with money, they don't have proper clothing, winter coats, things like that. They just are struggling with food and stuff. They're bringing it into the school, and it's causing them to have like disruptions in the classrooms.
How do the kids feel slash react to receiving weekend food bags? What do you think this is? What do you think is the main reason for the distribution of these bags?
So they actually don't struggle or get bullied for receiving the food bags. In fact, the parents are allowed to sign anyone up for them. So if even if a child doesn't need the food, they are able to sign up just because it's a district or a school-wide concept. So there are parents that reject the food bags and they don't. They say they don't want them. But most of the time, the parents just say yes, we would like to have them, and the child is actually really, really excited to get things for the weekend, some snacks. Even if they do feel like they do have enough food at home, it's a good like in between meals thing if they don't have enough food for that.
What are some alternative activities for the children to do outside of school? Do you feel that these activities are a positive influence?
Yeah, I do. So, I mean, on top of the food bags, which are called focus bags, through like a faith driven group. That's like just one activity that's like interacting with the school. So another thing that they do is they have like after school programs through like the YMCA. They have it through Pitt. We have a program called Steel City Squash, which is run through the University of Pittsburgh. Um, some of them are more effective than others. Sometimes kids just go there and it's just another place for them to sit around and wait for their parents. Um, but there is programs like for summer and there is like a library and things like that that can be productive for them.
What do you think is the most important for students to receive from the school, government, or funding? What most needs to be fixed in your opinion?
So, in my opinion, I would say that we need more bodies in the school. Not just people who are there to watch the children, but people who are actually qualified. They're educated, they have teaching certificates, CPR, everything like that. More able bodies to kind of enhance how the education process is going for these kids. Um, Also, textbooks are not necessarily a problem in the school, but enough textbooks for them to take home and have with them at home instead of having to lug things back and forth between school.
Do students ever voice their own concerns about school, health, or home life?
They do. I wish that they had voiced it a little bit more. But they do vocally say, like, I'm struggling with this or I need help with this. But a lot of the times, parents kind of keep it hushed because they're a little concerned about, CYF being called on them or the police or things like that. Granted, not a lot of those things are happening, but it is a problem when it comes to parents being paranoid about their children being taken away from them, unfortunately.
How does Miller perform on standardized testing? Do you feel students at Miller are more or less prepared than neighboring schools in relation to funding, preparation, and interest in doing well?
So they don't do well, actually. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of students that either they feel like they're not prepared or we just as a whole standardized testing is definitely geared more towards schools that have a lot of funding or are more from affluent areas, things like that. Unfortunately, Miller is not in that area. We do have a lot of poverty, things like that. So trying to balance, getting kids their education, but also caring more about like standardized testing is very hard. I mean, there are children that do really care and they do want to do well, but you can't push a lot of people to do that because we don't have as many resources as other like affluent areas. Um, it's just not a main priority.
Do you feel there has been progression towards a better future for these children since you have started working here?
We're working on it. It definitely trying to incorporate more after school programs, incorporate more programs during the day for sometimes the girls do a certain program with a sister that comes in from a church. And then sometimes the males get to do, we have African drumming for them. It's kind of like a way for them to group as a community. But the government itself right now is making it a lot worse. There's a focus on financial needs and financial needs of different classes than what Miller it has in its student body versus what they really should be focusing on more is a little bit more social policy, social things like that. Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I guess just trying to develop the Hill District as a whole. Originally, it used to be just a food desert. We didn't really have any food around here. Grocery stores weren't walkable. Now we have one Shop and Save on Center Avenue, which is nice, but you can't really afford groceries, especially when it's coming from a corner store that only offers junk food at like obscene prices. So adding a Shop and Save is super effective, but there's these cabs that are called jitneys, and they're like illegal taxis basically. And there are parents that come in and they say they spend $30 on a jitney for their kids to get to school, and that's another problem as well. So it's not only a lack of food or food desert, it's the lack of transportation from back and forth. So that's a big concern for us and something we're trying to figure out and get better.